Alright, before getting into the video, I want to do a little disclaimer. I believe that no matter what subject you're talking about, you should always be willing to talk about the good and the bad. I do not believe in toxic positivity, where all you do is talk about the good things. Two things I love outside of MMOs, it's fighting games and art. When it comes to fighting games and really anything competitive, getting your beat is actually good for you, as long as you're willing to learn from your mistakes. And then when it comes to art, it's pretty common to have your work critiqued. It's important to take that loss, take other people's words to heart, learn from that experience, hopefully improve and move forward. So in this MMO space, I do think it's really important to talk about these topics and really just get the conversation going. Or in a lot of cases, keep the conversation going because it is an ongoing issue. Smilegate has proven that they do listen to the community, but it's usually to the smaller, hardcore, and probably really whale-heavy community. In KR, that is. In NA, they kind of listen to us, it seems, but it's pretty clear that we're not the focus. But that doesn't mean we can't yap. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the monetization of the game, because when you really think about it, it is the root problem, it is the disease that causes a lot of these issues people have with the game. So Lost Ark is no pioneer when it comes to pay to win. This is something that is very common in the Korean and free-to-play MMO space in general. Now, something that every KR MMO that I played prior had that Lost Ark didn't is the fact that when you upgraded your weapon, there's a chance it would break, and that weapon or armor, it was completely gone after that. So one of the main selling points for me to try out this game was because it had a pity system, so even if you failed, you were heading towards the right direction. You still made progress, it wasn't a complete waste. But now we're getting to the point of the game where being lucky or unlucky is the difference of hundreds of thousands of gold. The most extreme case, for example, is going to be the Akon weapon. Getting that to 25, if you pity that, in just raw gold of tapping, that's 800k. If you consider all the other materials you need for it, that's well going over $1 million. One tap of that weapon is 3,750 gold. Quite a bit of difference. Now, obviously that is the peak, but let's be honest, if you've been sitting around town, you've seen people with these 25 weapons. The same materials that somebody might get 2 horns out of, another person might get 6 or 7. And since you can only farm so many materials in the week, your next step is probably to the cash shop, where you can buy the gold or all the materials you could need for honing. And if you downloaded and installed the Korean MMO and didn't think that this wasn't going to be a pay to win experience, I don't know what's wrong with you, man. Most of the people I see with like almost near max item level 25 weapons, their roster level is like under 150. Grinding, never heard of it. So since Lost Ark does have this pity system, it's sold as a game where these free-to-play players can keep up with the swipers. And while this is true, it comes at the cost of time. If you intend to keep up with the content, keep up with the latest releases, especially if you're trying for hard mode, you are playing this game like it is a second job, or you're dropping your credit card onto it. This game incentivizes you to play at least 6 characters. So if you are a grinder, you're doing your 18 raids a week, you're doing all your daily and weekly content on top of that, which even though a Guardian raid might only be 3 to 5 minutes and a Chaos Dungeon is only going to be about 3 minutes, it adds up because you're going to be doing this day in, day out, day after day after day because they want you to create that habit. So our version, NAEU, I will just be calling it the West. So in the West, it has sped up the content cadence. So up to now, we have basically lost about 10 months of grinding. So that is 10 months of gold, 10 months of bound materials, 10 months of unbound materials that we do not have, and we get minimal compensation as we only get events with basically nothing at this point. If you were the type of person who would use 5 characters or sacrifice 5 characters to all hone and funnel to one character, hitting 1620 is feasible. But the point of this video isn't about hitting 1620, it's about the time that you're investing into the game to even just make the progress. Because that character, that person, is still playing 6 characters doing all those dailies and weeklies. That's really what Smilegate wants people to do. You'll progress your way to the wall, and then day after day, it'll slowly wear you down until you swipe or quit. Because just like there is a breaking point for people to spend money on the game, there's the same breaking point for people say it's not worth the time anymore and just quit. A point that I really want to make is just because a small portion of the free-to-play player base can keep up with the Mega Whale swipers doesn't justify the system, it doesn't make it okay. You should not justify bad systems with copium. So it's the perfect plan, right? Well, when you have a horrible anti-cheat and a community that is conditioned to now spend thousands of dollars to progress through the game without playing the game, you create a very big opportunity, a very lucrative opportunity for botters and people who sell gold, RMT. Again, not exclusive to this game. Now, botting does get banned on occasion, but it's nowhere near proactive enough or reactive enough to really make it matter. Because as long as these people can make enough gold and then sell it and make enough money to make it worth it, they're gonna come back with new accounts. And on top of that, AGS is very lenient on punishment. Most of them don't even seem to lose the gold, so that means they're buying like months and months worth of progress and just getting a vacation. I've only heard of one permaban, and that's from a friend about a friend of theirs who got banned 5 times before getting a perma, and surprise, he's a Zena player. So since people have no fear of really any big punishment or impact for going for RMT, for buying the gold at a fraction of the price that you would buying it through the game, they're willing to take that risk. Now, a side note on botting. Dealing with bots is an extreme game of cat and mouse. Every time they find a way to stop the bots using their current method, they generally find another way around because, you know, when there is a will, there is a way. It's very easy to just make new accounts, and especially in the free-to-play space where you have zero down payment to get that new account to get into the game, it is extremely easy for them to make their money back and then make a profit. Dealing with bots in RMT is an extremely hard thing to do. The first actual step would be to put fear into the players for actually doing it, but at this point, so many people have RMT that you would basically kill the game if you wiped out everybody who has done it. So with all these elements combined, it's really a lose-lose scenario. The entire situation can actually be summed up in the group plan meme. Make honing miserable RNG hell, allow players to buy gold through us, and then players buy gold from bots instead. So a lot of the money they're trying to get out of players for honing is actually just going to botters and people who just RMT, but those who grind and do not pay for progression, they're burning out because the game is just designed to make it so you want to pay. And because of that, they quit. This game has a huge problem of keeping that player base alive. And then when anybody asks like a streamer or a Reddit post if it's a good time to get into the game, a lot of the responses is like, hey, if you can't play this game as a full-time job or pay a ton of money, you're So a lot of potential new players are demotivated to even try the game because they've already heard about how grindy and how intense it is if you're not whaling. Now, a quick little detour on busing, because I know if I don't mention it, somebody in the comments probably will. Bus drivers are the real top 1% of this game, but busing doesn't exist because of monetization. Busing pretty much exists because of the raid design of the game, which we will talk about in a future video. However, the monetization and progression of the game does incentivize people to start taking up that part-time job as a bus driver, because it is just so lucrative. So with all things considered, I think things need to change. It is just bad design for their bottom line along with the player base itself. I do believe that getting to normal mode of the latest raid should, well, be normal. The rate of progression and how people have been able to progress with the Path of the Soul Eater event, the honing rates, the artisan energy, the accelerated materials that you get from raids to get your set pieces or set upgrades, that should be baked in to be normal. But on top of that, I think it should actually extend all the way up to normal of the current raid. I think hard mode should be where all the whale taxing is, and obviously they can go above and beyond. The player base should not be more stressed about getting to the content than actually when they're doing the content itself. This kind of shift in progression would keep a lot of people playing the game still, but it also gives people the option to take little breaks here and there and allow people to come back without feeling so far behind that they basically have no choice but to swipe or quit. This will raise the concurrent player base because people are going to be willing to actually play the game without feeling like it's a second job. On top of that, it actually help with another big issue that all communities tend to talk about, which is main swapping or even just getting a new character up. People aren't going to complain that much about taking like a month to get to normal the latest content as opposed to spending like 4 to 5 months getting a character in the current rates. Also, the video tagging system would be really great too, but yeah. Now, an obvious response to all this is, well, this is how they make money, they wouldn't do this. But let's be honest, the cosmetics in this game are very pricey to begin with. Legendary skins, for example, that's a pretty big investment. People do put a lot of money into cosmetics, wallpapers, pets, and all that stuff in the game. I never exclusively buy anything for power. I've bought in the last month, I bought the 2 cosmetic packs and I bought in the Arc Pass, which yes, it does have materials on it, but I don't buy it for the materials. And I'm willing to bet there's a lot of people who are like this. I think aiming for quantity over quality is actually a good thing in this scenario. I think making it so the game has a huge player base that is going to have a lot of people who are going to buy these little things is going to add up to more than putting all your eggs into one basket, hoping that you keep your whales and that they're going to keep on funding you. It's kind of like putting all your money into an index fund versus, well, putting it in a single stock. So a few more points before I wrap things up. A common topic and debate in this game, in this community, is how to handle your roster. Things like return on investments if you should have 6 mains, 1 main, 5 alts, 1 main, 20 1640s, so on and so forth. The fact that these are topics in our community is just a good enough sign that fundamentally there is something wrong with the game. Because again, doing all this stuff on your roster, people talk about this like it's your second job. They call it homework, which is also a negative word. Nobody wants homework. All of that with a progression system that is designed to wear you down so you do swipe. It is impractical to hit even 1610 off-bound materials even if you've been playing since launch. The Baldman talks about this a lot, min-maxing the fun out of the game. And Lost Ark is just really good at making people want to do that. And if they can't, well, then you swipe it. For the game to last in the long run, it needs to feel like a game again. On top of being able to retain a player base, it needs to attract new players. Current players will eventually quit, may it be because they don't want to spend any more money or they just don't feel like they can keep up. New players, on the other hand, they won't feel like they can play the game because there's just so much for them to do, so much for them to catch up, and it's just going to take too much time. I've always been an advocate for a tier reset because I think it would help the player base in all those regards. The best times to ever play any MMO is either when it first launches or when a new expansion drops, because a new expansion is a hard reset, which is how they saved the game in the first place going into Tier 3 Season 2, which is the only version of the game we have played in the West. Now, I should note that a Tier 4 wouldn't fix the game on its own. A hard reset, a tier 4, this is your vehicle to bring in a lot of change. I will probably revisit this topic again in the future. So I want to end the video saying, yes, I do love Lost Ark. I do think it's a great game. It does have a lot of good things going for it, but it also has a lot of bad things going for it. And I really think it's really bad at really taking care of the casual player base or even attracting one. But it's also still really bad for the people who grind the game and who don't want to buy power. This is not a video to advocate for everything to be basically free, like you can actually just hit 1620 without even trying. I just think it needs to be eased up with a lot of changes. No game is perfect, no game is free of criticism, and I just think it's healthy to talk about the good and the bad. And even though this video is focused around the bad, I don't want it to make it sound like it's a doomer video. You can have good and meaningful conversations about negative subjects. In the future, I will be tackling other topics that I consider to be big issues with the game. Sub here for this video, like and sub, and if you made it all the way here to the end, thanks for watching.